talking death and murder today on Haunted Hollywood Hour. It's the LA County Coroner episode where we explore the colorful history of the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner. And a lot of the info for today's show comes from the book Death in Paradise by Tony Blanche and Brad Schreiber, which was written in 1998 and has some incorrect and problematic information, which I will address as I'm retelling this. Nonetheless, it's a very interesting book. It's got horrible photos and will give you nightmares. 5 stars. Joining me today is Lau from New Jersey, who took some forensic classes in school. So you're basically the most experty expert we've ever had on the show. Say bye, Lau.
Oh no. Oh my knowledge is so old, but yeah, I guess so.
And also joining us today is Andrea, who is an actual corpse from Long Beach.
I am a corpse, and I have done one of those like murder tours around LA where they, where you drive to all the spots where like murders happened, which I feel like is very related to this coroner discussion.
And before we begin, I did hear a spooky story from Lau earlier. So Lau, do you want to tell your spooky story?
Sure. So I used to work at one of the oldest hospitals in New Jersey, and I worked night shift. They have glass display cases that they have bulletins and posters in. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm just kind of standing in front of one looking at my phone, and I look up, and reflected in the glass is this little old lady in a hospital gown with her IV stand. And I thought it was just a patient that had gotten bored and couldn't sleep and got up out of bed at 3 in the morning because that's what they do. But then I turned my head to talk to her and ask her what room she came out of, and there was nobody there. It got very cold all of a sudden. I looked back in the glass and she was also gone from there. So I went back to the nurses station, and everybody at the nurses station was like, oh yeah, you saw the ghost that haunts this floor. Everybody that works here has seen her at least once by this point.
Just a little old lady with her IV stand.
Yes. Yep. Just looked like a patient to me, but until she vanished.
Were you scared at all to go back to work?
I wasn't, mostly because, well, first off, it was 3 in the morning and I was really tired. But also, when I initially saw her, I just thought, oh, look, it's a patient that can't sleep. I'm going to have to go put her back to bed. Oh, she's not there. And I don't think that my brain really had it in me to be scared of her at that point. And then once I talked to the other nurses and techs that work there, they're like, oh yeah, she's harmless, she's nice, she just happens to appear out of nowhere, everybody's seen her. I'm like, oh, no reason to be scared of that, so okay.
And Andrea, what's your spooky story?
This was a few weeks ago. No, this was like 2 months ago, but it doesn't matter. The point is, I took a girl on a date to the Queen Mary because I'm good like that. While we were wandering the boat, we came across a ghost hunter with all of his equipment, and it was so funny, but also very cool. And he said that we sensed ghosts with his equipment. I didn't feel anything spooky aside from just like, it's an old boat, but it was pretty cool. And I would like to go back with my own ghost hunting equipment.
What kind of equipment did he have?
He had the little, like the thing that like lights up, the little like ball that, oh, ghost, come touch this ball. Like, show me you're here. So he had that. He had the little like sound box thing. He had the little like reader that like lights up if it like senses a spirit or whatever. I don't know if any of that stuff works, but it looked cool and it was really fun to observe.
So let's talk about the history of death in LA, which is a lot. The story of LA's coroner goes all the way back to 1850 when President Millard Fillmore, by the way, of all the president names, that's kind of a good one.
Sounds very dignified.
No one names their kid Millard anymore.
It's almost like,
I think I'm more partial to Milton or Millard. Millard isn't really doing it for me, but I love that you love it.
It sounds like somebody who is like, let's take each of the in-laws' last names and put it together so that way we can name the baby after everyone.
I challenge the listeners, if you're having a baby, name it Millard and then tell me about that. Millard Fillmore signed a bill making California the 31st state of the U.S. And prior to that, it was Mexican territory. And from 1846 to 1848, the Mexican-American War was going on. And basically, this started because the U.S. invaded Mexico for no good reason. California is part of the U.S. for no reason at all, other than the U.S. invaded California. So in Los Angeles in 1850, there's about 1,600 people living here in Los Angeles. Now there's about 10 million people. But at the time, there's 3,500 in all of Los Angeles County. Still, even with only, I think this is like a big high school, 1,600 people here, there is one homicide.
Not like a small high school. I mean, it's bigger than my high school, but I feel like a big high school is like 4,000 people.
My high school, when I graduated, had 2,000 students in it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So imagine your high school has one homicide every day. That's what is going on in Los Angeles at the time. That sounds like the beginning of a horror movie. Every day.
Yeah, a little rough and ready, perhaps.
If you think about this, at that rate, in 5 years, you're going to run out of people to homicide. Your school is going to be out of students. Your city is going to be out of residents. It's a lot. So as the Wild West goes, Los Angeles is the wildest of Wests. In the new California Constitution, California is divided up into 18 counties, and each county is required to set up a coroner's office with an investigator who reports to the county clerk. And to determine the cause of death, basic detective skills are used. But if a case is complicated, there'd be an inquest where a jury and a coroner would hear witnesses and defendants testify, and then the coroner would present the jury's opinion to the county clerk. And the first LA County coroner is Alpheus P. Hodges. Again, no one named their kid Alpheus anymore. I challenge listeners to consider it along with Millard. And if you have two kids and you name one Millard and one Alpheus, I'll send you a hat. Alpheus P. Hodges. Google him, by the way, you guys, to see a photo of him. Andrea is holding up her dog, and Alpheus is not as cute as the dog, but he is interesting looking. And in 1844, he's one of the first graduates of the Medical College of Virginia, which is now called Virginia Commonwealth University. And at 28 years old, he serves as both the mayor and the coroner of Los Angeles.
Well, I guess he was probably not sleeping very much.
That also seems like two different skill sets that don't go together.
Yeah.
That's fun. Good for him, I get. Or he's doing both of them terribly. And we'll find out. Tell us more.
So picture, Los Angeles is a high school. The principal is also in charge of investigating why murders are happening every day. Let's get a little additional context about what LA is like during this time. LA is a desert outpost. There's no railroad. There's no stagecoach line. There isn't even a telegraph link. The first telegraph wouldn't even reach Los Angeles till 1860. And the Butterfield Overland Mail Route wouldn't even come through until 1861. And the first railroad, forget about it. They're not even coming through till 1876. So we're like in this 20-year period where Los Angeles, according to like the rest of, America, white America, is like Mars, basically. It is the final frontier. And the white settlers coming out here to Los Angeles, they're rugged. They walk the streets with Bowie knives and rifles. They're from Eastern bankers. There's gamblers. There's miners. And the genocide of the indigenous population is happening in full force. The first California law allows U.S. citizens to arrest any indigenous person who is not working, entitling white citizens to use indigenous folks as indentured servants on their farm, basically free labor. And it's slavery, basically, even though California is admitted to the Union as a free state. In fact, LA's biggest business at the time is the weekly slave mart.
Oh, this is the part where I'm going to start getting upset.
You should. This is the part they don't teach you in high school, especially California high schools.
As y'all know, from here, from LA, pretty much my whole life, this is the first I'm hearing of this. How wonderful.
So weekly slave mart, they basically round up any indigenous person who's not working. They put them in a cage, in a literal cage, and then they auction them off to the white farmers to use. And the white farmers will then pay, I'm using finger quotes.
Yeah.
at the end of the week in liquor so that the indigenous person will then be drunk so that they could be rounded up again for drunkenness. The whole period is extremely dark. Between 1846 and 1873, non-natives kill between 9,500 and 16,000 California natives. Hundreds to thousands are starved and worked to death. And the whole period from the 1850s to the 1870s is just this dark ages. Lynchings and mob rule are commonplace. Los Angeles editorials decry Black, Asian, and indigenous people as barbarians taking jobs away from the whites.
I feel like there's some relevance to today's standards as well. That's just, yeah, that's disgusting.
In Los Angeles, a lot of murders take place in a place called Calle de los Negros, which actually is not named for African Americans, but rather dark-skinned Spaniards who originally lived here, who were like among the 44 original settlers from Spain. And there's saloons and there's brothels and there's gambling dens. And to give you a further idea of how this is all going, after a trip to Los Angeles in 1864, a New York journalist wrote that he would hear conversations about going out to shoot a man as commonly as duck shooting in any other country. Sometimes he'd hear, well, how many did you shoot today? And a lot of times it's not white people shooting white people. It's everyone else.
It's what you think is happening.
The coroner's inquest would hear cases about a dead indigenous person, and the verdict for this jury of your peers, who, by the way, you are not allowed to be anyone who isn't white testifying against a white person. And the only people who are allowed to sit on juries are white people. If you present a deceased indigenous person, the verdict is often going to be death by intoxication.
I can't say what I'm thinking right now because we'll get in trouble.
Not on this podcast.
No, not on this podcast. Say whatever you want.
Just all our thoughts right now are probably a mixture of anger, shock, and also, why didn't they teach us this in school?
I don't think they wanted to teach that white people ruin everything.
Yeah. By the way, if you're interested in more details about this period, check out episode 9, the El Aliso episode, and episode 13, the Poor Farm episode, which goes into a lot of detail about this time period. But in 1865, a German-born man named Dr. Joseph Kurtz arrives in town after working at a Baltimore hospital during the Civil War. In LA, he drinks beer at the local saloon with his German friends and plays an important role in the founding of the Medical College of Los Angeles, which would become the USC School of Medicine. And he would be the LA County Coroner from 1870 to 1873, and then again from 1876 to 1877. And among his tasks are investigating the 1871 Chinese massacre. And see, in 1870, there's about 172 Chinese people living in Los Angeles. About 3% of the total population of the about 5,700 at this time. And more than half of the Chinese live in little adobes along the Calle de los Negros. Starting in 1869, there starts to be a rise in anti-Chinese editorials, and this corresponds to a lot of violence against this community. And in 1871, there's a shootout between two Chinese family organizations over the kidnapping of a young woman. 2 police officers intervene and are wounded, and a civilian assisting the cops, Robert Thompson, what are you doing? He wanted to be a hero here.
Yeah.
Getting in the middle of a shootout, it's not your job.
Nope. And look what happened.
And he gets shot. And here's the thing, because white people are going to white people.
Yep.
Word spreads that the Chinese killed Thompson, a mob of 500 rioters. All they need is just one excuse.
Yep.
Yeah, no proof, no evidence, just a bit of gossip.
They capture a bunch of Chinese people, drag them to a makeshift gallows, and 18 Chinese individuals are killed. And since there had been 172 in Los Angeles at the time, that's 10% of the Chinese population in Los Angeles. Dr. Kurt's coroner report, actually, he does the thing. bar is on the floor, right?
Yeah.
But Dr. Kurtz steps over it, and he actually recommends that 50 of the rioters be tried by the district attorney. So progress is being made here. A grand jury indicts 25 rioters, but only 10 stand trial. 8 are convicted on manslaughter, but the charges are overturned on a legal technicality. And the tragedy is forgotten. And no mention of it is even in the newspaper's yearly roundup.
It's 95.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally forgotten.
Yeah. By their standard, they're not white, so why should we report?
Exactly. By the 1920s, the county reaches over 1 million residents. The coroner is investigating 2,500 cases annually.
Okay, that's
a lot.
That's a lot.
And keep in mind, the coroner isn't investigating everyone who dies. The coroner is just investigating the cases that were this person died under suspicious circumstances, not of natural causes, and there's a ton of suicides during the Great Depression, which happens in 1929. This is where Pasadena's Colorado Street Bridge starts to become known, I guess you could say. And Andrea, are you familiar with the Colorado Street Bridge?
Yes, I think so, if it's the one I'm thinking of. But I'm real dumb when it comes to geography, maps, directions, what is left, what is right.
Do you know it as the Suicide Bridge?
No. But I also never hang out on that side of town, to be fair.
Okay. To be fair. So the Colorado Street Bridge is super, it's a really, really pretty bridge. It goes over this huge, huge ravine, but it's super, super tall. It's every time I drive by on the 210 freeway and I see that bridge, I'm like, that bridge looks so scary. I don't even know I don't think I've ever crossed it before because it's just so high. From between 1919 and 1937, there are 95 suicides that take place there.
Wow.
So to address the increasing caseload, the county opens the Central Coroner's Office in the Hall of Justice basement downtown at 211 West Temple Street. The staff now includes multiple people. We got autopsy surgeons. We got inquest deputies, we got deputy coroners, and we got embalmers. As far as your forensic classes go, what were some of the things that you learned about what these people do?
They would autopsy the body. They would check for suspicious wounds, or they might do toxicology to see if there's poison or drugs involved. They'd look at the circumstances in which the body was found, collect all the evidence, and they give it to the head guy and be like, here you go. Let's figure this out. And especially with homicides, they have to document everything. They map out all the wounds on the body, say how big they are, how deep they are. If there's a bullet involved, they have to dig the bullet out, and they have to be careful about that so they don't damage the bullet, so they can do ballistics on it. And this is okay, not now, because when I was studying this, it was 15 years ago, but I'm pretty sure that not much has changed as far as homicide investigations go. I'm not 100% sure what they would be doing back then. I assume probably about the same thing, just with a little bit less of the lab equipment that we have now.
Yeah, so in the 1930s, autopsies start to become a thing. Now they start to become important. And coroners, before coroners were just kind of using detective work, and also witnesses tell us what you saw, tell it to the jury. Here's an investigator found some clues and some evidence. Now they're actually cutting the bodies open and they're seeing things. They can determine cause of death by poisoning and overdoses based on kind of the size of the organs and things like that.
Yep.
In the 1940s, there's more than 5,500 cases per year. So that means there's 15 deaths a day and no weekends or holidays. 15 bodies coming in.
That's too many.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know there was a limit, but it is over it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the coroner starts getting tasked with determining if alcohol could possibly be a cause of the rising number of traffic deaths.
Yeah, I love the idea of do you think it's bad to drink and drive?
No. Oh, no. No. Oh, I was afraid.
Funny story. I remember in kindergarten, our teacher was talking to us about drinking and driving. I don't know why. It seems like really young for kids.
Wait, what do you mean in kindergarten? Okay.
One of the things our teacher asked us is, do your parents drink and drive? And at the time, I was really confused because, I used to see my mom like pull into the drive-thru at McDonald's and get an iced tea and drink that iced tea while driving. And so I felt like
Lo and I are making the craziest faces right now.
But my message to kindergarten teachers, if you're talking to your class about drinking and driving,
don't.
You gotta just really explain things. So the coroner's like, should we figure out if drinking and driving is bad? They start developing this new field called toxicology. By the way, some fun facts about drinking and driving, specifically New Jersey, Lau, since you're in New Jersey.
Yay, New Jersey represent.
Was the first state to criminalize driving an automobile while intoxicated in 1906. So good on you and your state.
Yeah, it's like one of the first things they told us when we took driver's ed when I was in high school. Is like, just so you know, the drinking and driving laws started in New Jersey. And, we're high school students, so we're all like, yeah, so.
California was a little bit behind. It took us 5 more years to enact a DUI law in 1911. But many states don't actually have these laws, didn't have these laws. As recent as 1985, you could drive from Key West, Florida to the Idaho-Canadian border, completely hammered the whole way, the whole 3,700 miles, and not be arrested.
Dude, that's in my lifetime.
My lifetime, right? I was born in 1981.
I was born in 1980. Wow.
We're the last of
those allowed to drink and drive.
Allowed to drink and drive.
Crazy drivers generation. Oh my God.
But changes are afoot in the 1980s. In 1984, Mothers Against Drunk Driving leads a campaign for the National Minimum Drinking Age Act, which requires all states to increase the legal drinking age to 21. And so basically 16 to 21-year-olds, in theory, aren't drinking and driving. But Mothers Against Drunk Driving also launches the Tie One On for Safety campaign, encouraging people to tie red ribbons to their car antennas as a reminder to avoid drinking and driving. Baby steps. Yeah. In 1988, drunk driving finally becomes illegal in all 50 states, and the national blood alcohol limit is set at 0.08%. You know what I feel like now? I feel like now it's going to be social media phone use while driving.
Yeah.
I think future generations are going to look at us and be like, wait a minute, from the 2020s to the 2030s, you could use your phone in the car while you're driving?
Yeah, we're already seeing evidence that there was a video that was just released. I saw it on Facebook. It's a woman, she's on her phone, and you see she's typing. She lets go of the steering wheel, starts texting with both hands, and the car just goes bleh, crash. And she looks up. She doesn't seem to be that hurt, but she looks up and she's like totally surprised that she ran into something. And apparently she bounced off like a car and a mailbox, and she's sitting there like, oh my goodness, there was something in the road. So I think stuff like that's going to have changes like that happening soon.
Yeah, there's that stat or whatever that like looking at your phone while driving is the same as like 3 drinks or something.
There's got to be cars made with like something that deactivates your phone if you are driving. Like if you have the car on and the ignition on, your phone just won't work. Maybe self-driving cars are the answer. So all that happened. And so it took 48 years in total from the beginning of the LA coroner being like, drunk driving, is that bad? To us actually passing a law nationwide that says 0.08%, can't do it. Another thing that coroner's office starts using toxicology for is to investigate in the 1940s whether drug overdoses are accidental or intentional. The answer determining whether life insurance settlements would be paid out, which both things, it seems like, well, okay, accidental overdose, maybe like the doctor gives you too much of a drug.
Or you misread the instructions.
Misread the instructions. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because that quite unfortunately does happen. Or they had, I can't remember what show it was, but they had one of the medical shows where a woman overdosed because she couldn't read very well in English and the label was in English and she took the wrong number of pills.
Yeah, that makes sense. In 1956, the coroner officially becomes a medical-based institution. This decision is actually voted on by Los Angelinos, and the title gets changed to Chief Medical Examiner - Coroner. Forensic science becomes the primary tool for determining cause of death. And the first medical examiner - coroner is Theodore J. Curfey. And he's born in Kingston, Jamaica, October 25th, 1897. So he's either a Libra or a Scorpio. And Ted was the coroner in Nassau County, New York from 1938 to 1957 when he gets brought to Los Angeles. And he instantly starts stepping on some toes with all these reforms he wants to make. And a 1958 editorial calls him curt, rude, tactless, and arrogant. I'm like, I don't care. Just do your job well. And during his career, because he's working with dead people, but I guess, if you are, you know what? Actually, I take that back because that's the whole pilot thing where people are afraid to speak up when their boss or like their pilot captain is doing something not right. But he's intimidating. So you're afraid to say, hey, you're not doing that right. So I think it's important for a boss to be nice and approachable. During his career, Ted administers the autopsies of a whole bunch of people, George Reeves, Dorothy Dandridge, and he is responsible for the design of the current medical examiner logo, which you guys are welcome to Google search and take a look at it. It's got pictures of different things like a little microscope and all these little symbols that mean things. Ted uses a sophisticated technique in deciding whether certain deaths are accidents or suicides. He calls it the psychological autopsy. And New York Times did an article on this, and they said a psychological autopsy involves psychiatrists and psychologists finding out whether the dead person had tried to kill themselves before they died by suicide. And then kind of based on that, you can figure out, was this situation a suicide or was this person murdered and was it staged to look like a suicide? The question is, though, why is a psychiatrist asked to make these inquiries rather than the coroner? And it's explained this way. A wife, for instance, might describe her husband as so nice and wonderful, and she doesn't understand how this could happen, how he could suddenly be dead by suicide. But a psychiatrist might ask her some questions and reveal the fact that things were not actually all that wonderful, that there's a lot of conflict in the family, that this man might have been struggling with disappointment and rage and felt trapped because if he broke out of his marriage, he'd feel so guilty. So psychiatrists can kind of like interview the family members and really get down to figuring out, okay, you may have seen him this way, but if we ask a lot of probing questions, we can kind of figure out what was really going on in the family. Psychiatrists may be able to tell if that suicide is actually a murder as well. So fraudulent suicide notes, if you're ever wondering, is this note a fake suicide note or is it a real suicide note? Fake notes make lots of vague statements like, I can't go on, but authentic notes are usually directly or indirectly, it's intending to hurt someone in particular. And they'll say things like, I can't go on without you. It's really
something that was covered in my forensic classes as far as suicide notes went is also a lot of times authentic suicide notes will include stuff like, don't forget to feed my dog.
My fucking least favorite suicide note? Brian Laundrie.
I'm sorry, do you have a list? I was going to say.
Does anyone have a suicide note that pisses you the fuck off? And for me,
yes, it's Brian Laundrie. You're correct. Yes.
You're about to off yourself. And you are trying to paint yourself as the victim. You're trying to craft the narrative to make it like you didn't do what you did.
First of all, that's a great fact. And I hope that you actually do have a list that you're looking at right now, like on a bulletin board. and you have on that a number one. Also, I'm going to agree with you and say, you know that you're exiting the mortal coil. Why not be honest? Why do you have to keep lying, even your suicide note? Well, because he's a narcissist. That's the answer.
Yeah.
But it's infuriating.
This all leads to Ted ordered a psychological autopsy for Marilyn Monroe's death and concluded that she fit the profile for frequent suicidal depression. Do we believe Ted? I do not. I think Marilyn was murdered. What do you guys think?
She seems a pretty strong candidate for suicidal depression.
I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not as familiar as I should be, but I'm a little familiar. But like, I don't know. To me, learning about it always seemed like she did it by accident.
Here's the thing. The man who conducted the actual physical autopsy on Marilyn is Thomas Noguchi, who is 35 at the time. And he's, an assistant. And he's wondering why he gets tasked with determining the cause of death for the most high-profile woman in the world. Meanwhile, Ted, the main coroner, who's been doing it for like a long time, is like, here, Thomas, you do her. In his 2025 book, LA Coroner, Thomas Noguchi and Death in Hollywood, Thomas says that the autopsy was never fully and properly performed. Evidence went missing, and he's not on board with the death by suicide ruling. He says that he was not allowed to further investigate how a body that was found surrounded by bottles of powerful sedatives did not have any visual evidence of kills inside the stomach and small intestines. Thomas became suspicious when he learned that head toxicologist Raymond Abernathy disposed of Marilyn's stomach contents once the coroner's report was issued. And without a complete analysis, it's impossible to rule out that Marilyn had died by injection rather than by swallowing pills.
That I didn't know.
Well, why would they murder her? For what?
Because the Kennedys. Because
oh yeah. All right, sure. Why not? Okay.
The president is like, I don't want to. Marilyn's probably might be pregnant at this time. It's like I'm pregnant with either Robert Kennedy's baby or John F. Kennedy's baby, and the Kennedys are like, we have to kill her. And if you think about it, Trump has potentially off. So what's her name? Virginia Giuffre. How do you pronounce her last name? Giuffre, who the Epstein Islands,
right?
And her memoir just came out posthumously. Presidents offing people is a thing that happens.
Yeah,
especially with women. And I'm just presenting evidence. I tend to think, though, that Marilyn was killed. Thomas says he could never shake the sense of uneasiness that has dogged him since the beginning. Was there a cover-up? Was there a chance that she was murdered? Was he a pawn as a young assistant autopsy dude getting past high-profile woman so that, stuff could go missing on his watch and not on the main coroner's watch? In 1965, the position of coroner's investigator is established, and this individual can go out in the field and do detective work while the medical examiners work in the lab. And Thomas Noguchi would become chief medical examiner in 1967. Let's learn a little bit about him. Born in Japan on January 4th, 1927, so he's a Capricorn. What are you, by the way, Lau?
Oh, I'm Korean.
I meant astrologically.
Oh.
That was so sweet and precious.
But no, your thing, you were adopted, right? So you don't know your zodiac sign.
But for sure you're an Aries. You know that.
Yeah, because I was an abandoned baby, but I believe they gave me the date of birth of the day that I was surrendered to the orphanage in Korea, which would be April 8th, and they note on my papers that I was a newborn, so I would have had to have been born on or around that date.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you are a certified Aries?
Yeah.
Certified Korean Aries. And Thomas is a certified Capricorn Japanese person. And he supervised autopsies in his career on a range of celebrities and public figures, including John Belushi, Janis Joplin,
Wow.
Sharon Tate, and Natalie Wood. All the big dead people.
Yeah, that is all the big list of names. Plus the Marilyn Monroe is right there. Yeah, that's a lot of big names for him.
Is that another list you keep next to your list of suicide notes you hate? You keep a list of his famous autopsies.
Yeah, favorite autopsies. That's another good list. I'll start building my bulletin board. Least suicide notes, favorite autopsies.
I pity anybody that visits your apartment and be like, what's this on the wall? Oh.
I was about to say, I can't wait to come over and see it.
In the 1970s, I gotta put a major trigger warning on the content warning on this podcast episode. It's got all the things.
Yeah.
I'll just say up front, don't listen to this episode.
That's hard.
In the 1970s, the county's population rises to over 7 million, and the number of drug-related and violent deaths skyrockets. The coroner's office is now investigating 14,000 cases annually. That's more than 38 deaths per day. They expand their facilities, moving into where the medical examiner is now, at that big, beautiful building in Boyle Heights in East LA. Have you guys ever been there, by the way? Or are you not a sicko like you?
No, I haven't. I'm sure I probably driven past it and I haven't looked at it because I'm unobservant.
When I was in class, we did a tour of the coroner's office. That was nearby in New Brunswick. Didn't get to see any autopsies, even though I actually begged the professor. I'm like, can we go on a day they're doing an autopsy? And he's like, no.
Really? They said
no, because he's like, that means that somebody we're not going to hope for that, because that means somebody would have to die, and we don't want that. And I was like, there would be so many legal things with evidence and all that other good stuff. He's like, I don't even know how much paperwork we would have to do for that. So we're going to tour the lab, and we're going to keep me, out of any areas where you might be able to sneak off and try to find an autopsy. Like, oh, I would never.
Fun fact about me, I have never seen a dead human body before.
Not even at a funeral?
Yeah, not even at a funeral. Like, I don't think I've ever really I've been to memorials.
Well, it's an unpleasant experience, but
Yeah.
What else? Well, probably not for you, though. You're probably used to it.
Yeah. So there in Boyle Heights, the coroner is among the first to start using electron microscopes to analyze gunshot residue and compile statistics on cause of death trends. By 1990, they're dealing with 18,300 cases per year. That's more than 50 cases per day. So imagine a whole large high school classroom full of corpses every single day. And we got to figure out how these people died. Now that's the peak, because the lead poisoning and CNN generation are, there's this whole book on why there are so many murders in the 1970s through the 1990s. And they're basically it's lead poisoning, making people go crazy.
No, I didn't buy that.
But nowadays, if you've ever wondered how many deaths and murders and things are happening now, in LA, our crime rate now is the lowest since 1960. It peaked in the 1990s, then had a substantial drop off. In fact, it's so bad, though, in the 1990s that the medical examiner at the time, Ronald Kornblum, is forced to resign after an independent audit found that staff shortages and a high homicide rate are leading to unsanitary conditions, including dead insect larvae in the morgue and a body that had decomposed because it had been misplaced.
Misplaced?
If you are really into horrific things with dead bodies, I highly recommend The Mortician on HBO Max. It's a 3-part miniseries about mortician in Pasadena, a whole family of morticians. It's got everything. It's got
everything.
It's gangster morticians. It's got mortician assassinations. It's got how many bodies can we cram into a crematorium.
Oh my God.
Horrible.
It's got mixed up ashes.
Horrible things. Didn't want to watch at first because I was like, this is going to traumatize me. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch it. And I'm glad I did because I had no idea people could be like that. And it has an interview with the main guy, the main mortician who's doing the horrible things. And this is my favorite genre of true crime documentary is when you get the guy to talk, you get that first-hand experience of looking at a narcissist in the eye while they're just lying to your face. Just because they're confident doesn't mean they're telling the truth. Experience the gaslighting.
That's why they call them confidence men.
This is why, Andrea, we pay you the big bucks. So the next medical examiner to take over is J. Lawrence Cogan. From 1990 to 1992, the murder rate in Los Angeles jumps 18%. And they ask a guy named John Perper from Pennsylvania, if he wants to be LA's medical examiner. And he says, nah.
No, thank you.
Nope.
Get this. He says, nah, because the housing in LA is too high.
Yeah, girl, it is. Still, right now, present in this moment.
Goes back in 1992.
Yeah.
A medical examiner who these guys get paid.
Right, a lot of money.
He's like, it's too expensive to live there. Next up, Lakshmanan Satyavajaswaran takes over. And during his tenure, from 1992 to 2013, he oversees the O.J. Simpson murder case and Michael Jackson's death, among others.
That was on murder tour. The murder tour I did in LA.
Oh, wow. You did the O.J. Simpson and you did Michael Jackson, like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, we did a lot. But those two were on there, and it was great.
Oh. Well, so in that time period, wasn't the Night Stalker running around, Richard Ramirez running around by that point?
A little earlier, I think. That'll make me think
The death rate pop up a little bit.
But that was also, like, there's a lot of high-profile murders at that time. The Menendez brothers, that was around that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And as of the publication of Death in Paradise, which was published in 1998, like I said, that number of cases the medical examiner saw was up to 19,000 a year. But like I said, the murder rate has gone down substantially. Right now, the number of deaths from violent crimes is at its lowest point since the 1960s. Since 1993, the LA County Coroner has had a gift shop called Skeletons in the Closet, which once sold a delightful selection of merch to fund its anti-drunk driving programs for teens. Unfortunately, it closed in May of 2019. Apparently, everyone lost their sense of humor.
Yeah, bummer. I would have gone.
And it's one of those things, too. I've known for years about the LA Coroner gift shop, and I've always been like, oh, we got to go sometime. We got to go. They sell body bags. They sold stickers, stationery, pens and stuff, and T-shirts. It was those things that you put off. And then in 2019, suddenly everyone's like, this isn't funny anymore.
Boo.
Yeah. Death in Paradise describes those who work in the coroner's office as a reasonably cheery group. They include medical, investigative, scientific, administrative, all types of professionals who are keenly aware of their responsibilities to victims, families, and friends. And they admit that if a little humor isn't exchanged, they'd all go bonkers. Because, what's the saying? If you laugh at nothing, then you cry at everything. So some of the tasks are bureaucratic and clinical. Others involve photography, weighing organs and body parts, and on-site investigative work. There are highly specialized procedures like jaw removal to analyze dental records or finger rehydration to capture fingerprints.
Do you want to hear something really gross about that one?
Yes, always.
I saw this in a textbook. I heard it anecdotally from somebody who did this work, and also it was on a TV show as well, especially if the body is waterlogged and the skin is slipping off. What they will do to get fingerprints, they will actually take the skin off the corpse, put it over somebody wearing a glove, like put the finger skin over their finger, and then fingerprint it that way.
Wow, that's
hey, whatever works.
Apparently, it is the creepiest feeling ever. And I mean, I'm not surprised. But yeah, they put the skin on top of somebody's finger and fingerprint them that way.
Bless the people who do the tough jobs. I probably nope out of that. But, you're solving crime. You're like, you know what? I got to wear the skin of a dead person in order to solve this crime. Going to do it for the good of humanity. That's my fascination with the whole death related thing is I think like, ooh, would I ever do that job? No. While the authors were researching this book, they describe the technicians as doing 20 or more autopsies a day.
Oh.
The bodies are in several large cold storage rooms where they stay on average 3 days, and homicides get priority. For non-homicides, bodies get a complete autopsy with toxicology. Then for accidental death, blood and urine samples reveal the presence of alcohol or drugs. And then the third type is a limited autopsy where toxicology for witness deaths or suicides with a note and no other complicating factors are done. And it involves looking at stomach contents and blood and urine samples. And then the fourth and final type is an external exam only with blood and urine toxicology for natural deaths in known circumstances. And these are if you died without a doctor present, but people were like, we kind of know how this person died. They got in a car accident. They, tripped and fell and hit their head. Internal exams often have a police detective present, and internal organs are removed, weighed, measured, and analyzed, and the brain is weighed and examined for abnormalities. Tissues are preserved for later investigation. So why wasn't Marilyn Monroe's tissues preserved for later investigation? Because the Kennedys wanted to cover it all up. And then the body is stitched back up and sent to a mortuary for the funeral. Since 2023, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors has officially approved a name change for the office, which is now to be known as the Department of the Medical Examiner. And the removal of coroner was needed to reinforce the department's role as an unbiased and independent investigative agency unattached to any law enforcement agency. That is the story of the LA County Coroner.
And here's to many more years of investigating bodies and wearing dead skin.
Solving crimes and catching bad guys and figuring out why people died. What are your reactions? What did you learn? How are you feeling?
I knew a very minimal amount, again, despite being from here. Probably obviously the most surprising is all that deep LA history that we're not taught ever.
Yeah.
But getting into the present, I love a celebrity death investigation. And I, again, encourage everyone to do a murder tour. It's so fun.
Once again, this is why I don't like history, because history invariably pisses me off.
Getting pissed off is good.
Yeah.
I think that motivates you to change things.
Yeah. And for modern times, yay, investigating bad guys with science and cool stuff and catching bad guys and stuff like that. That's always fascinating to me. That's why I study it in the first place. And every now and then in passing, I'll still read a paper or two just because it's still interesting to me.
If you could snap your fingers and have the schooling needed to be a forensic person, would you do it?
No, knowing what I know now, because when I was studying and I was young, I was in college, but I probably would still do forensics, but I don't know if I would still do the active crime scene stuff, just because that's a lot of traumatic stuff still going on. There's still probably, they haven't cleaned up, because if you're gathering evidence, they can't clean up. So, and I mean, at least if I was in the coroner's office, they're already dead, and dead people can't hurt you. And also, I mean, nowadays, because like I said, I've worked in a hospital and stuff like that, I've been around dead bodies and stuff. So I think that the coroner's office would bother me a lot less than doing crime scene investigation.
So would you like to work in a coroner's office?
I think that I mean, I like that aspect of it. I think that if I could have had that career, I think that would have been a great career to go through. But it was like, I think for most coroners, you have to go through medical school with an additional couple things to get you to coroner. I mean, if you're an autopsy tech, it's slightly less, but it's still a lot of schooling. And it's, it wasn't in the cards for me, but it's something that will always fascinate me.
Thank you both for sharing your insights.
And guess what, y'all? In the time that we were recording, I found out I'm going to an event on the Queen Mary in like an hour. So I'll be back. Wow. See the ghosts. I'll report back.
You got tarot cards, right? Bring some tarot cards. Ask the ghosts question.
I'm going line dancing, so I don't think I'm going to bring my tarot cards. But they are line dancing on the Queen Mary tonight. But once you're in, you can kind of walk around. So I'll see what I can do while also traveling light.
Yeah. Maybe with your phone, see if you can.
Smart.
Are there any ghosts here? And then hold it up and see if you can hear it.
Yeah, good idea.
Well, thank you, Andrea and Lau. And this is Haunted Hollywood Hour. If you enjoyed this, we have an Instagram, Haunted Hollywood Hour Podcast, all one word. If you want to get this podcast out there and be seen by more people and heard by more people, give us a rating and review. It helps the algorithm, helps your friends, and helps everyone find this. And if you ever want to come on the show sometime and talk about creepy, spooky, scary things in Hollywood and the greater Los Angeles area, I am totally game, and you can email us at hauntedhollywoodhour@gmail.com. This is an all new season, and we're going to be coming to you every week with new spooky stories. So stay tuned, and until next time, bye.